Hey everyone, Luke here. Now, I know it's been a really big, long time since I've done like a video like this. It's been probably about 2 weeks, but that's due to a number of things. The main one being that obviously I'm in a show, so I've been learning my lines. I've been going through them continuously time and time again and trying to actually get into my role of being the character. But also as well, it's because not just with We Neverland, but with The Promised Neverland. The last chapter, like the chapter before the one that recently came out, it was kind of a bit lackluster, and I'll get into that when I do the video. Yeah, it was kind of a bit lackluster. Aside from the beginning, there really wasn't much to go off on the actual chapter itself, and it was really short as well. It was only like 10 pages long, and then obviously we had a break from Shonen Jump as well the week after that, so that was kind of like, what? That's really all we're going to get? But anyway, that's besides the point, guys. And also as well, another announcement, next week I'm on holiday. I'm going to be going down south for a week itself, so next week there'll be absolutely no video as well. I apologise for that. There's nothing I can do about that, and that's why I'm trying to get these 2 videos out as quickly as possible so that you guys have got something to tie yourselves over for the next couple of weeks. But anyway, that's besides the point. We're going to get right into what's the difference on We Never Learn, because these 2 episodes, they were interesting to say the least. Alright, so these 2 episodes cover the rest of Volume 3. Now, hopefully, I'll have Volume 4 when I get back from my holiday, because it comes out next week, Volume 4, so hopefully I'll have that. But yeah, just getting right into it as well. It starts off with with one of the chapters where Ogata actually breaks her glasses, and that's one thing that's actually cut out of the episode, which just made it all the more confusing for people when the jokes were actually coming out about what's going on with Ogata, when the mystery was already solved right here, that she broke her glasses. Well, her father broke her glasses, and he was like, "I'm so sorry, Risu. Daddy just wanted to give you a goodbye hug." And she's like, Well, it is what it is. I'd rather not, but I'll have to use the old pair of glasses I keep as backup. And Daddy, you're banned from coming within 3 meters of me." And he's like, "What?" And I thought that was really good. So like, okay, we've established like what the actual conflicts of this particular chapter is going to be right off the bat. But again, to cut out, that's kind of like really weird. It's like, why would they cut that when they do basically the same jokes throughout the episode, and we don't actually find out why that is until the actual end, and it's kind of like pointless, really. But anyway, apart from that, the episode, for the most part, the chapter does play out the same, except for just clearing out the few little bits that are to do with Ogata losing her glasses and how it affects her as an individual. And there's quite a bit of the chapter that's actually cut. I shouldn't say like it follows the chapter verbatim, because it doesn't. This is really weird. These 2 episodes, they kind of like flip back and forth between the episodes. Now, I don't know whether they did this just to make the flow seem a little bit more natural in a sense, because we get a chapter that focuses on one aspect, and then we get like another chapter that's kind of like filler, and then we go back to focusing on that aspect in a chapter afterwards. So that's kind of like the driving point of these two episodes, to kind of like flip back and forth in terms of mixing up what chapters come before where, or what events play out before where, and it's not bad. In terms of how they do it, I'm actually really okay with it. Even though, like I said, I would have loved to see these chapters actually adapted all the way. But again, unlike The Promised Neverland, who tried to adapt stuff but add stuff, this one when it adapts, it usually does it really, really well, and also it cuts out bits that actually don't need to actually be there in order to just keep the flow of what they're actually trying to say about the episode in of itself. But anyway, continuing on, the other points that that I want to actually talk about is this part right here where Ogata, because she actually has not got her glasses, not got her glasses on, she actually can't see very well what's actually going on, and it's kind of all a little bit blurry. Well, she actually does have glasses on, it's just the spare ones, but it's kind of all a little bit blurry. And we get this part right here. I don't know if you guys can actually see it, but yeah, where she's where she says, I have to really squint hard to see anything at all. And that's actually the reason why she has that look of anger on her face. That's actually freaking everyone out, because she's not used to having these glasses at all. And I thought that was a really creative way to actually get some like the misunderstandings across in the episode. But to actually cut that out, that's kind of like weird. It's like, why would they actually do that? Now I know why they actually did that, because they cut at the beginning of the episode. So if she actually said that, it would make no sense whatsoever. But anyway, it's still kind of weird why they didn't actually just have that set up so that they can actually do all the jokes and all the misunderstandings and actually make it perfect right off the bat. But anyway, that's just like a minor nitpick. And again, a lot of the nitpicks of the episode are just that. They're just nitpicks of the two episodes. But again, there's a lot of bits that are actually cut out, and several chapters that, well actually I think there's only one chapter in the entirety of the two episodes that's actually cut, and we'll get into that when we get into it. Now a bit that's actually cut out, from what I've got from my notes here, oh no, it wasn't actually anything in the classroom, it was in the hallway. It was this part right here, where they're actually in the hallway before Furuyashi actually pushes Yuga into Ogata's breasts, and he says, and she says, okay, will you take me to the library? And he's like, your glasses. And she's like, I don't need them, and when I wear them, for some reason, I seem to scare people. So she's actually aware of the fact that she's actually scaring a lot of people because of her intimidating look, because she actually has to squint as well. And we get a lot of misunderstandings here from other people, that because she's actually clinging on to Yuga, they're like, oh my god, is she Yuga's boyfriend or something? And they're like, oh, they're Bline, hey, don't blame it. There's like one kid here who says like, that one right there, who says one phrase that I can't actually pronounce. But anyway, continuing on, they go on to say, oh, she's cut her without the glasses. Well, Z, and then Yuga notices this, and he's like, I guess people pay more attention to you without them. I guess. And yeah, she is quite cute without the glasses. I'll admit that she is quite cute without glasses. But even with the glasses, she is pretty adorable herself. But continuing on, she doesn't understand like why everybody's getting like all agitated in response to her, which is again indicative of Ogata's character. She goes on to say, why do they pay more attention to me without them? And she's questioning this, but in the form of a joke. I don't know why. I think she's more questioning it of like, she wants to understand what how people's emotions work. But I feel like Yuga takes this more like she's questioning it, but also like putting it into the form of a joke as well. In the manga, it's kind of weird in the manga how they actually do that. But again, I feel like that's probably the reason why they actually cut it out, because it seems like kind of an awkward moment, a bit too awkward for them to. And again, it's probably because they want to get onto the more present matters, which is focusing on Kiryu Sensei's situation in that throughout the whole episode itself. So again, that's probably the reason why they actually had to cut that, and if that's the case, I totally understand. But again, they could have easily just cut out this whole chapter, and I would have been fine with it if it was like if they were just gonna focus on Kiryu Sensei. I would have been fine with actually just cutting out this entire chapter and just leaving it for manga only, because it really has nothing to do with the rest of the episode of itself, and I feel like it was just a way to include all the girls in the episode. Well, I say all the girls because one of them, Takamoto, she's actually not in episode 7, I believe. yeah, she's actually not in episode 7. So again, they could have easily just cut this out, and it would have made a difference for the actual episode itself. But anyway, she's like, Takamoto at the end of the chapter is like, gee, where is everyone? And she was like waiting for her study session to actually start, and nobody actually turned up. So again, this chapter, it's an alright chapter. Not one of the better ones, but it's still all right, and it gets a lot of like character development for Ogata and how she actually feels in relation to Yuga. But again, this could have been a chapter that could have actually been cut out, because the episode tries to focus more on Kiryu Sensei rather than all the other girls, and trying to give her a moment to actually come into the forefront. And I'm really hoping that they don't actually rush it with Azumel Senpai, because she's my favourite character in the series, and I don't want her to be rushed at all. But we'll have to just wait and see. Now, in terms of the rest of the episode, it goes by pretty much verbatim from the manga, with the only exception, like this chapter with the phone, that's actually in the next episode. So you can see why I'm like actually really confused. So you can see what I actually mean. Not necessarily confused, but more understanding about why they actually decided to just like switch them around, because this episode was focusing more on the relationship between Kiryu Sensei and Yuga. So we get the chapter where she actually goes to his apartment, where he actually goes to her apartment, but we get no mention of the fact that they actually live close together, like they're actually in the same area. Yuga doesn't actually point this out. Where he's like, well, this is only 5 minutes from my place, because that's actually important, because again, it's in relation to what happens later on in the series, where it's actually revealed that Kiryu Sensei's teacher was actually Yuga's father. So like how she was actually familiar with Yuga's mother and everyone, and how she and without actually realizing that Yuga was actually the son of her old teacher. Now, going back to her, I actually went back and actually looked at the chapters with her in, and I actually made a mistake here where it was like her parents pressuring her with figure skating. Well, they were pressuring her, and then when she wanted to become a teacher, they actually just I think they pretty much sort of like disowned her. But I think they've actually made up recently. I'm not entirely sure, but I think the Kiryu Sensei's sister in the manga wanted her to call her mother. But no, this is the reason why she's acting so cold, is because she was a teacher that actually inspired, like she wanted to actually be like Yuga's father, in like she could inspire people, and she was doing that with someone who she saw as someone who was good on a piano, and she thought like, oh, you can get into this college, you can do this. But then when she didn't get into this college, she felt like she failed her as a teacher, because even though the student wasn't as good as others, in her mind she probably thought like, right, she wasn't as good as others, meaning that she doesn't have the talent to be in a music school after all this happened, and she doesn't feel like she was the right teacher to actually come to, which is why she was starting to act so cold to Ogata and Risu, and thinking like, no, don't go down this path, only go down the path that you have talent in, don't go down this path, because she didn't want them. She wasn't doing it to be mean per se, she was doing it because she didn't want them to be hurt by the fact that they couldn't actually get into their respective colleges. That was the reason why she was acting so cold and distant, and it all works out in the end. She actually gets in contact with the student that actually failed to get into that music school, but she turned out alright. She joined an indie music band, she was playing music every day, and she was really happy, and it was because of her that inspired her, and that kind of like got Kiryu Sensei to sort of like soften up a bit. She's still very stern and very cold, but she's like softening up and lighting up a bit recently in the manga, and seeing like, even though her teaching method did fail initially, in the end it worked out, and it actually worked out better for the person, because she didn't actually need to go to college to actually be successful, and she actually proved that by actually getting in contact with her and saying like, I've joined a band, I'm playing music every day, I am happy, and I'm happy because you believed in me. That was but the main reason why she was acting so cold is because she felt that she failed as a teacher, because she was trying to be more like Yuga's father rather than finding her own path and her own teaching methods. So yeah, that was the reason why she was acting so cold and stern as a teacher, which is a mistake I made in the last video. But anyway, besides the point, the episode plays out pretty much how it is in the manga. They go to her apartment. She gives him some pointers on his tutorage. He finds out that she used to be a figure skater, and then after that we skip the next chapter, which is a sleepover chapter between all the girls. Before cutting right through to where we have the rumor that Furuyashi and Yuga were actually a couple, and this is why I feel like they actually cut out that chapter, is because this chapter actually starts off with Furuyashi actually saying like, you went to Kiryu-sensei's house, so I feel like that's why they cut it out, because it allowed it to flow gracefully into each other. But anyway, let's talk about the sleepover chapter for a bit, because it starts off with Seikujo being invited over to Rizu's house for a study, be invited over to a sleepover, and of course Seikujo has a massive crush on Rizu. It's plainly obvious day as day she has the hots for Rizu, and she's like, but she acts all tsundere about it. She's like, gee, I guess if you insist. And then of course she gets embarrassed because she thinks like it's gonna just be her and Rizu, but then it turns out that all the other girls are there as well. And Takamo's like, I've got a brilliant idea, all-girl pajama party study session at Risu's house. And then Seikuju's like, I should have known it's not just going to be the two of us. And of course they start to actually have fun with each other, with Takamoto saying, Simon-chin, hurry up and get into pajamas. And then she's like, and then they're like, thank you for joining us. And she's like, right, thanks. So why did you invite me? And then they're like, well, I always see you staring at Ryu-chan in the eye, so I figured you'd be stoked. And then, of course, she gets embarrassed by this continuously, like right here. She gets really flustered about it. She's like, I don't stare at her. And what the heck is a pajama party study group? Why should I change it to my PJs? And then she sees Ogata in her PJs, and so she's immediately like, I'm in my PJs as well. She's like, oh, on the other hand, pajamas are pretty awesome. And she's like, and Rizu's like, at that point, she's like, hey, calm down, girl. Just calm down. And of course, they're all in their pajamas, and Takamoto questions her, and she's like, hey, Samu-chan, it always takes me forever to translate long passages. Got any tips? And then she's like, well, the more you practice, the faster you get. You've got to translate an explanation right here. Go for it. And Rizu's like, Seikuju, I'm wondering about these characters' motives. Look, it explains right here. And then, of course, they're actually seeing Seikuju as like a female Yuga, in the sense that she knows a lot more about the subjects that they're useless in. So they're like coming to her like, hey, what's this all about? Hey, what's that all about? Hey, what's that all about? And then they all obviously are worn out because of it, which means which gets Seikuju saying, I didn't mean to blow you off, but why ask me all this stuff? And they're like, well, when the three of us try to teach each other, we usually just get even more confused. And Seikuju's like, right, hardcore. A non-stop barrage of questions. This is trying my patience. And then of course she gets the idea of like, if this is trying my patience, I am going to invite Yuga over here, which of course gets everyone completely embarrassed except for Seikuju, because this is and again, this is probably I don't believe this is because she actually just say here that this is actually what he owes her for not blowing his cover when he actually got when he was actually trapped in the girls' shower room, that he was actually trying to train on the camp, that he was actually trying to clean on the camping trip. He was like, I owe you one for this, and she's like, yeah, this is what you owe me, so you're gonna help me here with this. Where they go. And of course, when he turns up, they're like, "Oh my God, Naoyuki!" And she's like, "Thanks for coming on such short notice." And he's like, "Oh, sure, no problem." And everyone's getting flustered. And he's like, "Yeah, it's like we're all in our pajamas." And she's like, "Huh? So what? It's not like we're naked." And of course, Takamoto and Rizu are like, "He's what now? Wish I'd worn something cute. Wish I'd worn something cuter." And he's like, "What is this? overwhelming feeling of forbidden secret flower garden, and he's like, I should leave right now. Don't. And she's like, don't abandon us, Naoyuki Yuga. I can't handle them on my own. Don't forget, you owe me since the overnight study retreat. And he's like, Yeeks, I've forgotten. And of course, this actually obviously convinces Yuga to actually stay. And Takamoto's like, she's right. So what if we're in our pajamas? Come on, Naoyuki, let's get studying. And of course, this is because Takamoto has the most obvious crush on Naoyuki, which prompts him to go, huh, Takamoto, since when have you become so eager to study? And he's like, weird, my stomach feels funny all of a sudden. And of course they do get into the study session where Yuga's actually trying to teach Takamoto about basically how to do English, where he's like, this is Takamoto, focused reading is essential to translate a short English passage into Japanese. That's an important skill. However, when it comes to longer text, the skill set is somewhat different. Take this sentence, for example. Here's how we would normally translate it. But if you were translating a longer passage, I recommend a different technique of breaking up the text into units for quicker composition. That's how native English speakers figure it out. If you just translate one unit at a time, the gist of the text will make sense naturally. And she's like, "Wow, I get it. I think I can do it. Thank you, Naoyuki." And of course, this actually takes away of Saikuju's hassle, because she was getting so overwhelmed by the questions to everyone, she didn't know how to handle it. But actually having Yuga there, she kind of actually understands what his teaching method is all about, and she's like, wow. She actually thinks, wow, to get an idea of like, wow, this guy really knows how to handle these three and how to bring out the biggest strengths in each and every one of them. Now, eventually after the study session, Ogata's father comes in and says, okay, guys, I've got you done for your dinner. And Furuyashi's like, thank you, sir. Haha, thanks for befriending my little Rizu. And then he's like, you too, Sensei. Thank you for everything. Eat up now. Oh, thank you, sir. But of course, Rizu's father has the most obvious suspicion about Naoyuki, and what his ulterior motives is that whilst everyone else is enjoying the food, which actually has a reference, a good callback to one of the chapters that was actually adapted into the anime, which was the chapter where Furuyashi was worried about her diet, and she's like, oh, but what about my diet? What about my diet? And then Rizu's like, it's just one night. And Naoyuki's like, oh, it's getting pretty late. After this, I should be getting going. And Takamoto's like, why don't you sleep over too, Naoyuki? Yeah, the night's still young. And then he's like, oh, that probably wouldn't be appropriate. And of course he sees what obviously the father has actually wrote, leave in 5 minutes or suffer the consequences. And you get like just this really creepy moment from the father, almost borderline psychotic moment where he's like, you better leave right now because I'm going to beat you senseless, kid. And he's like, yeah, I wouldn't be right to sleep over with a bunch of girls. I'll head home. And Takamoto doesn't actually get what is actually going on. So she's like, oh, don't be a stick in the mud. And she's like, and they're like, also, I'm not super, and he's like, also, I'm not super into risking my life. And then after that, he's gone. Naoyuki's gone, and the girls are just, they're just sleeping in like their bed sheets. They're like, oh, isn't this fun? It's like a school trip. And Saikujo is actually thinking about how Naoyuki handled the situation. She's like, that Naoyuki Yuga is in for a lot of hassle in his life. And again, this is actually why Saikujo is actually important for the series, because she can actually predict things that are going to happen. She's actually an outsider to the whole situation, and she can actually observe the situation and not be flustered by Naoyuki's presence, and actually predict actually when things are actually going to happen. And again, this is great foreshadowing for certain events that are later down the line when he actually has to, because of the story arcs that we've actually involving all the three characters. It's kind of been a bit of a hassle on Naoyuki that he's actually had to go from like, okay, this is their outside problem. Okay, this is their outside. Okay, this is their outside problem, and he's still got Risu and Takamoto to actually deal with as well. The last two of the girls, because the other two story arcs that we actually haven't completed. I guarantee you that in the manga we're gonna have like a story arc for each of the girls. Like they're all gonna get their own little mini story, and it's gonna be coming in. Like we're gonna have breaks between each story arc, but I feel like within the next few chapters we're going to be getting Takamoto's storyline and then Rizu's storyline, but we'll just have to wait and see about that. And then she's like, he's too generous for his own good. His girlfriends will have it rough too. I can see it all now. And then Furuyashi's just laughing this off by saying, well, you were the one who roped him into helping us too, Sakura, but you might be right. And then they're like, his girlfriends, I wonder if Naruyuki has a crush on anyone. And then all the girls are like obviously getting flustered, like because they obviously all have individual crushes on Naruyuki, and then they're like, the rumors, remember there were rumors. Don't get me wrong, I could care less. And then they're like Takamoto goes straight for the jugular, and then she actually and then Psycho actually goes for like the ultimate kill here, which is like, well, if you ask me, I bet he's into girls like Risu Ogata. And then you see just like Furuyasha just going, no. And she's like, yeah, Psycho goes in for the kill, and then you see obviously Takamoto getting flustered, and Psycho goes on to say, it sure seems like he looks at Rizu a lot, and then Furuyashi obviously being one who's actually who actually can obviously see what's going on in certain aspects in terms of like how Takamoto and Rizu feel. She's like, oh man, Yurika must be really suffering, especially her breasts. Psycho-Ju, don't bring breasts into it. And then Risu obviously kind of pushes all of this off because she's obviously one that doesn't know how to actually deal with complex emotions because she's always a person of science. And this is like a whole new experience for her, so like a whole new different side to her that she doesn't know how to handle it at first. She's like, what a waste of time. As I have said, I consider romance a highly effectual waste of energy. And Psycho's like, interesting. She hasn't come to terms with her own feelings. And then Furuyashi's like, I've got to change the subject. I've got to balance this out. And she's like, I think Yurika is probably more his type. When she's like, and then we see Takamoto just like getting absolutely flustered, just like, oh my god, I'm so embarrassed right now. What can I do? What can I do? Or maybe, and then she goes on to say, oh, maybe Richu after all. And then she's like, shoot, I'm sorry you're both attractive. And then Psycho's like, well, enough kidding around. Honestly, I think you've got a great thing going. Seriously, he's so patient. He answered all your endless questions without a word of complaint. I'm really impressed. You guys are lucky to have a tutor like that. And they all get like, just like, that actually honestly touches their hearts, not in a romantic way, but more in a sense of like they've actually got someone who actually believes in them and who can actually put up with their insanity and obviously all their questions. Something that Psycho can't do, but she understands why it's so important for all of them as well. And they go on to say, well, I think I'll review my workbook just a bit more before going to sleep. And then like, no fair, Fumicho, I was just about to say that. What are you scribbling over there? That was my intention all along. And then as all the girls start to fall asleep, Psycho-Juice like, looks like they finally ran out of juice. Watching her, and then she looks over at Rizu and she's like, watching her work so hard almost makes me want to support her in trying for... No, she's actually talking about Fumino... No, it is Ogata. Watching her work so hard almost makes me want to try and support her in trying for a literary school. And of course, she gets actually beaten up by Rizu in her sleep, and she's like, Rizu Ogata is such a wild sleeper. And then we get Furuyashi mumbling in her sleep and going, It was such a trilly event. Basically, she's relaying stories in her sleep. She's basically a book when she sleeps, essentially. And she's like, she's recited the full text of Ransom in her sleep. Scary. What's with these people? And then the next day, they're obviously all going to school, and Takamo's like, last night was so fun, such a nice morning, let's do it again sometime, Sakura. And she's like, no thanks, I don't think I got a wink of sleep. And then that's the end of the chapter. So so again, I can understand why they actually cut that chapter out. But again, like I said, would have been nice to actually have it in. But I understand why they actually didn't include it, because again, it would have just broken up the pace of the episode, and it was too long. It was too dialogue heavy, and they actually had to get through a lot in that episode when it came to talking about Kiryu Sensei and her relation to Yuga and how it's going to develop over the series. But again, it was nice to actually talk about this chapter, because it gave Saikachiro a chance to shine and to show how she deals with people, because even though she has a massive crush on Ogata, she is kind of awkward around other people and doesn't really know how to handle them, or how to tutor them in the same way that Yuga knows how to tutor them. But again, like I said, it was a chapter that I can understand why it was cut, and I'm glad they cut it all the way rather than just having little bits of it in and just being like a disjointed mess like it was with the chapter where Ogata broke her glasses. Because again, like I said, that chapter really had nothing to do with the overall tone of the episode that was actually shown in episode 7. Now again, like I said, with episode 8, they actually go back in time and they actually include the chapter after the breaking of the glasses, where they're actually in the bathtub and actually talking about study sessions over the phone in the bath. So they included that because again I feel like it was a chapter that was actually needed, because it had a lot of comedic elements to it. But also as well to actually give each of the girls a chance to think like, oh my god, it's like we're in a bath with Naruyuki. So again, a lot of comic elements, and I'm really glad that they actually included that chapter. But aside from that, episode 8, it pretty much followed the manga from when Takamoto actually passes out to when Naruyuki actually hears the fact that she actually has feelings for him. But of course, that's obviously brushed off as being a lie, even though it's not really meant to be. Not really meant to be a lie. Now, the bit that's actually caught is actually not a bit that's actually in this episode. It's the bit where after Naruyuki finds out that Takamoto actually has a crush on him, and they go to that ramen episode. They caught Naruyuki talking about restaurant ramen, but in the anime it tries to do the same joke. Now what that is that Naruyuki actually basically has, in the manga, he has an orgasm for the ramen, for the restaurant in the ramen, and they try to play the same joke as it was in the anime, but it just didn't work because they actually called the opening of the opening section of the joke, and they just went for the punchline, and it didn't make a lot of sense. But aside from that, that's really all there is to episode 8. It was actually again an episode that was adapted pretty much verbatim from the manga, and adding and just actually changing around a few bits. Now this I'm all right with, because it actually affects the flow of the episode. As long as they adapt them, they can adapt it in any order they want, as long as it actually fits with the tone of the episode. Like the bit with the Rizu's glasses, that episode just didn't. That chapter just didn't fit with what they were actually going for with the rest of the episode. Although I think they only did that because they needed to fill in the time. They needed to fill in the time for the episode itself. But also, one of the things that was actually cut out was before Takamoto actually collapses, we actually show her actually just doing all the activities that she normally does, whereas in the and it's right here where she's actually, you see her doing all those activities and say like, no, I I can't be worn out yet. Not yet. I need to keep going on. I need to try a little harder for Naruyuki, and that causes her to actually pass out. And again, I really wish they had actually included that montage of her actually showing that, because again, it adds more to Takamoto's character and showing that despite everything, she's still a hard worker and she's determined to actually go through with what she actually sets out in her goals. But anyway, guys, that was episodes 7 and 8. Again, 2 episodes that I'm alright with. Again, I'm enjoying We Never Learn anime more than Promised Neverland anime. I mean, there are a few little bits that are cut out and left out, but again, unlike Promised Neverland, what chapters We Never Learn the anime actually adapts, they adapt pretty much verbatim from the manga, with a few glaring exceptions, obviously being the one with Rizu's glasses, how they actually cut out quite a bit of that. But again, they probably needed something to fill the time, but they could have easily just I don't know how they could have done that, because I think they really just wanted to focus on Kiryu Sensei's story, and get that in and get out the story of like the rumor between Furuyashi and Naruyuki that was in the anime, like they're actually a couple, and all the girls are like, oh, are we gonna find out about them? Nah, there's nothing going on with them too. So again, but yeah, like I'm saying, Promised Neverland anime tried to just like cram in a lot, and just try to cram in 4 or 5 chapters at the same time. Whereas what We Never Learn are doing is like doing 2 or 3 chapters and focusing on the chapters that actually need to be focused on. Because the problem with the Promised Neverland anime is that because it's a serialized story, it needs to have a lot more adapted. Whereas We Never Learn, because some of the stories are actually just standalone chapters. They can actually cut out what chapters that don't need to be focused on in this particular episode, and actually bring them along later on. It's not really established what time of year or what day the chapters are actually focused on, and that's what I love most about the series, and the fact that because they are standalone chapters, most of them, they can actually pick and choose. Whereas Promised Neverland, they couldn't really pick and choose, and that's what hurt the anime so much in my opinion. But again, they're 2 completely different series, but I just feel like that needs to be addressed. The fact that because Promised Neverland was more serialized, it needed a lot more time. Whereas We Never Learn, because it's not really serialized except for the very few limitations, they can actually just pick and choose what they actually want to adapt. So again, guys, that's all I've got to say on the episodes. What did you guys think? Let me know, like, subscribe, comment, all that jazz. Promised Neverland review of the next 2 chapters will be out hopefully tomorrow. And then after that, obviously, I'm on holiday, so I'm going to be obviously enjoying that. And this will be Lasher Luke signing off. Later, guys!